All right. It's gonna be really hard to not hate myself for every little fucking thing I do wrong. So I'm just gonna try to blow through this without any mistakes, which I doubt will happen. But I wanted to cover 311 in this way format or whatever because it would be the best for you and for me to to see all of this. And so here's my file. I've I've been compiling like each number in Hebrew English in a sort of list. And the thing is, I need to go in each. Since some like see this won't. I put the Kenneth Grant's like reference every time that 311 is mentioned in one of his books. Like I put the page number. Actually, this one for some reason the page number out of Hecate's Fountain is not there, and I opened the file. I'll have to go edit it. This is my laptop though, so it's not the official file on my computer, and so that's just something I'll have to deal with. But he mentions 311 and Beyond the Mob Zone, and like, see, he mentions every number, not every number, but he mentions a lot of numbers, obviously, in different books, and so. And in the Ninth Arch, it goes up really high, like up to 924. So it's not fully, like it's not every single number, but he even does mention some numbers that are outside of the spectrum of verses, like of Liber Akbish. Is every verse he has like something said about each number. Just about some numbers he doesn't, and then in other books he mentions them and stuff. So. I needed to do that for myself. No one else, like the publisher, hasn't done this. They've even discussed online making a book. Of course, they need to make money off of it to compile all of these. It's like I've already fucking done it. So obviously, some of them have not been. There's problems, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm going over it. And anyway, 311. Is a lot of things. In a way, it like combines a lot of the things we've discussed, and like it's Martian. Like we've talked about Mars and stuff, and the Martians, and you've talked about how it's the dream about black, like very black, dark blackness, and it's in a dream inside a black hole. Mind War, which is that Michael Aquino term, pretty much, but not necessarily only. But Mind War, if you think about the fact that Kophnia, it's Kophnia, which is the back of the head, and Nia is the inward eye. It's a subconscious number, and that's why Kephra, which is obviously also Kaf for Ra, the backs. It's like makes me because he obviously is associated with the ninth side, and he pushes the sun or the earth. Like there's different legends. Either the earth is sort of the dung ball, or he's holding the sun in some depictions and stuff. And Kephra is also related to Jeb, which is the earth, and so and like eggs is also 311 because egg is 11, 5 plus 3 plus 3. And then Shin, so, and that's why bug is 11, or AI, but plural would be also an artificialized, that goes with AIs, and collective hive mind, mind war, wiretap. See, language of clicks, that also goes with Kephra, clearly, but also the hear a voice, AIs, wiretap, all of that goes with that whole idea of voice to skull or whatever, which, Mind War. Because all that basically it's telemetry of data, and that's what, if the subconscious mind actually seems to be based on numerological data. It's very simple. And that's why it's able to compress all sorts of data and it's just crazy because all of this stuff is numerological, like the Kabbalah and all the. I know I say this so much. It's just like it's not seen and it's not appreciated. But and then see like the dark side of 311 also, the more darker aspect to it. When I think of it, at least, he talks about how. See, I'd have to read this in context, but 311 enumerates Drukpa, the Oriental cult of the Thunder Dragon. And remember, the Thunderbolt is the Vajra, and Vajra Yogi is 311. And Vajra Yogi is basically a yogi, obviously, a yogin, or a master of the Vajra, which is the clear way. And remember, the clear way is 666, but in the diamond is associated kind of with the hexagram, I think, in a lot of ways, because it's like the Merkaba and the again, the impenetrable light, and the Vajra as the thunderbolt, and all these things kind of come together in a lot of ways. And so Adam Kadmon, again, and limitless light also is 311. And to me, also 311, if you think about, like, certain numbers have certain sort of like obvious, or it's not necessarily even that obvious, like 360 or 365, I mean 365, it's the circle of 360, and then 5 is obviously the pentagram, and most people wouldn't think of that in that way, but the pentagram is obviously the shape of man, and 360. There's just a lot to that I have found. I can't even get into because I'm trying to go over 311, but Adam Kadmon made me think of that, and how it's also man in Hebrew. That's the Hebrew word for man, but then, and which it is, AIs right there, or eyes, Aish, but 311. What I'm trying to say is 11. If that's the number of magic, and 300 is the number of fire, Shin, then 311 is the magic fire. And it doesn't say that, but if you look at these and you kind of have that in your head, well, what is the magic fire? Well, remember, there's the astrolight and the magic light, 9 and 11. 9 being the sort of actual, the astrolight being the inner light, and the magic light being the outer light. It's funny, every time I fucking talk about the Qliphoth, there's like these external affirmations or something, because I in one of my videos I was mentioning Ahriman and technology, and then all of a sudden my screen like went black, and so it affected the video, and things like that happen. Anyway, it's the whole magic light, the screen. Anyway, the magic light as 311 is what I was trying to say. So, what is the magic light? If it's the Drukpa and the Kaf Nia, especially the magic light. So let's read this real quick. A silent sampan glides upstream, and sampan is a type of one of those real thin Chinese boats. So Chinatown. Sampan points to Honan. Its Chinatown analog confirms our suspicion that we are again in the two worlds of Sinsinhua and his consort, Labella or Label Lola. The oracle is Shiva, flesh. See, I didn't think of that. Which is also Aish, man, or connects with that. And the magic light, flesh, which well characterizes the sorceries of Mrs. Sin, for Showa the ghoul was her magical name. And Showa, they keep mentioning Showa, which is this like witch in this book, and every time, and I think of you, because for some reason it's just there's a lot of connections between that, and it's not in a bad way. She's as a witch, but 311 Kafnia, from AL chapter 3 verse 72. Kaf denotes the back of the head, Kaf denotes the back of the head being Resh, the sun. Kaf thus denotes the moon, which controls the sexual kalas in which weaves, and that has to do with flesh, manifestation, the generative powers, the kalas, or it makes me think of the color pink, flesh, and the magic light, and I always thought, like, whenever you had told me about the color pink, it was a sort of like opening into this weird understanding and this weird, and I realized the flesh is the manifestation, and that's like, and then the color of what is it? The ninth arch is pink, but Kenneth Grant talks about the mauve zone and mauve being purple, but he says it like it's the light higher than eyesight, so purple beyond purple, the light higher than eyesight. And so pink being sort of spectral anomaly or angle. It also makes me think again of the rainbow and 42. Like the number 42 has a certain sort of green and pink, which green is the opposite of pink. That's what I think of as green and pink as 42. And this sort of angular, the angle, again, like, I don't know how else to explain it, but these numbers, like, it's hard to explain because, I don't know. And I was also thinking, if sign language has a validity to it, and picture language has a validity to it, why does number language not have as much of a validity to it? Which I think it does, it's just not recognized fully. But also Shai, or Aish backwards, or rearranged, it's the Egyptian god of destiny. So wait. The glamour of the flesh that causes it to glow with the desires of Shoah, the evil woman. Nia, 61, is the reverse of the introverted I, and that's why Ain is also all, just A plus L plus L, or 1 plus 30, 30. And then Kali is obviously the goddess of black, and black is also 61. And black is both nothingness, Ain, and all colors mixed together, if you think about it. Although the converse with that is all light is white, so that's kind of odd. This reversal thing is very important, I think, and that's why Grant called it the Akkadian or the Akkadian gnosis, and I've mentioned it, but it's very simple. 333. He didn't say that, but I found that. Like, I found so many things just, and it helps to memorize all of this, and it does fold up. And another point Kenneth Grant and Achad talk about is the tree of life folding up, the paths folding up to a point. And not only that, but with the Eon of Maat, and the whole idea of the orb, there is something to that. The whole idea. That's the way in which I think there's some way the wormholes and time travel thing has to do with. If basically, in Michael Berteau and Kenneth Grant both talk about this, the numbers in these, the fact that they like overlay, and you could take like fictional stories, and then historic stories, and all these and mythical stories, and they all overlay. And so basically that shows that these it's the under the sun idea, like there's nothing new under the sun. Well, it's because within that framework things are geometrically categorized or structured, and that's what 333 kind of is all about, obviously, with Karanzan and the Guardian of the Abyss. It's what's beyond the numbers. And 666 is obviously all about alien stuff too. And then also the sun. They say the sun is this sort of gateway. And interstices, the interstices or the in-between spaces is also 666. That just goes to show the ever like fractal nature of which everything is. That's why it's also the fractal of manifestation. I know I did that really fast, but the is THE, so, or Teth Hey Hey, the Fractal Vav Resh LF Gimel, because C is ABC. You can also use Cheth, and there's like a hidden sort of variation in that, and that just shows that like an AI or an automatic system wouldn't to detect those nuances, just as with like the final values, which are very obvious, like sum, mem final, like those little nuances it would be a lot harder to detect, basically. And that's why I think that's not just an excuse, it's actually like an important Kabbalistic sort of rule to be aware of. And it just goes to show how, therefore, precise and cohesive the English, when you apply Hebrew to English, apply Hebrew to English. Like, it's that fucking precise, and like the whole Kabbalah, the Kabbalah of 9 chambers. And then it folds back. And so it is toroidal. The toroid is all about the spin, like I was saying, and like you realize in the 666, and it's like snowflake, like the snowflake when it hardens. There's that what is it called? I already forgot, but it's 555, and 555 is fractals, and like each layer, it's like a density, like the information gets denser and denser. Oh yeah, it's morphogenetic fields. Morphogenetic is 555, even though that implies the biological aspect. With the genetic, morphogenesis is the term for anything, matters like evolution, the morphogenesis of something. And so morphogenetic, it's just another variant of the same idea, basically. And that's why another point to all this gematria and stuff is it helps you find the nuances in language and in the mind that wouldn't otherwise be even you wouldn't be aware of. And again, the back of the head, that's why I'm saying there's language. They say that mathematics is almost something we discovered. It's not like we created it, and we're uncovering these actual laws, basically. Well, the same thing I think is happening with language and vocabulary and words, and that means with the numbers, like the dots that make up the data, the bits of data in a word or a phrase or an idea, concept. I think that all of our language has been built on that without our full awareness of it. And now that we are aware of it, like what I've found is that looking at by categorizing everything, you can see, holy shit, there are little, like in the spellings of things with the H and the silent, the phonetics, basically. The phonetics has a sort of point-based system, like a puzzle. So you can actually fit things better with this knowledge of gematria than otherwise. To it, like I'm saying, like to a perfect extent. That's why the Tikkun Olam is 666 is symbolic. It's the reparation of the breaking, and algebra means the reparation of broken parts. And there's so much to all this. It's just fucking, it's so much. And I suck at algebra, but I understand the history and I look at the larger scheme of things rather than just like the little. I can't get caught up in like some of that stuff. It's too not necessarily meaningless, but I don't know. To me, some of the deeper or what they call higher mathematics is almost unnecessary because I'm not using it for deep external physical, engineering. I'm actually going the opposite way, and I'm like going. It's funny because a silent sampan glides upstream. And then he says, glides upstream suggests the waters of meditation upstream of conceptualism, i.e., the flesh. And he talks about turning the senses back backward, the backward way, which again is 333. And Gnostic ascent is 333. So the backward way, the Gnostic ascent, it's like the path of, in a way, the path of the Magus, but also the path of the Fool. And because the path of the Magus, actually, Kenneth Grant says the Qliphothic aspect of the Magus is the scientists in the form of the Black Brothers. And so he says that in the Night Side of Eden. And how they basically are they're trying to, it's what you were talking about, like with CERN and all that. And again, I can't help it, but Higgs boson is 333, and again, that's the field particle, the particle field, or particle and wave duality right there. And they are like, I mean, it didn't fucking take, like in CERN, Karanzon, it's all fucking obvious. And it's funny, 311 was, again, Fukushima. And you said you predicted Fukushima, so it's predict. And it's a bunch of, there's a lot of other things that I had to take out of this. It's in this other file, which I pulled up because it actually has a few more things in it, but it's really deep about the whole Fukushima thing, like TEPCO is related and all this stuff, and it's just crazy how it didn't see it. I don't know if it was an accident. It's just 311 is also what was it? Yeah, the Mahapralaya, the solar years, 311. That's million, trillion. So the Great Night, remember the whole blackness you were talking about, that has to do with 311, another resonance. And that's not just from this book, that's just where I found that and I saw, holy shit, because Blavatsky mentions this too. But this book, Man, God, and the Universe, is really good because it talks about the cycles and the sort of onion-like nature of the soul and manifestation. And Asat, which is a name of Isis, Isis being a lot of she's the goddess, obviously, so that kind of connects with the limitless light and all this stuff, because for a lot of different reasons. Think of how Kali is both black but also the Kalas, or time and the colors. And Asat is both untrue or non-being, basically, because Sat is being, and Asat is non-being. So again, that goes with the blackness. And then there's the black Isis. So, and that goes with, see, the Madonna and the child, and then the Christ. The Christ is the light, which, again, the magic light, which is kind of black, but also, I wouldn't say it's the color. It's black in the sense it's like black magic, or it's illusory. And oh yeah, it's Library 729, or the Amalantra working says, whose egg is this? And eggs, and so it implies Kefra, or Sata, the serpent who dwelleth in the uttermost parts of the earth. And Sata has an alternative number as with Samek as 71, which is lamb. And so Sata, lamb, lamb is basically the Kundalini in a lot of ways, and being O, or An and Aleph, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, and the binary, like, sex process itself. It implies, or the babe in the egg, actually, the 1 and the 0. Circles. Gold is 107, right? And then silver is 311. So gold and silver is 418, which goes, that's a sort of alchemical thing in a lot of ways if you look up 418's various meanings other than just what Crowley found. A jewel in the lotus. Isu, the devil, basically, of Yoruba, or Exu, but Isu is also 5 plus 6, which is 11, and then 300. Yog-Sothoth, which again goes with this sort of crazy outside the circles of time idea. Oh yeah, the Higher Eden. I forgot where that comes from. I'll have to look it up. But Omanoia, Liber Omanoia, I pulled that up. I'll go over that real quick. A great day and night. That goes with the great night thing. So manifestation and the opposite. And then so Mizra, which is the mixed or manifold. That implies that it's the Mizra. They have something called the Mizra Kala. And Kripa, divine grace. Drukpa, and then Hori-Yuji. This is this temple, and it's got a lot of like draconian and reptilian symbolism in it. And they say it's like a remnant of basically this whole Drukpa or dragon cult. And so the dragon is again the great knight and manifestation. The dragon's associated with Malkuth, and that's why if Yesod is the serpent, and then the serpent fully incarnate, because the number 10 is associated with the name of the dragon, which is Tan, and the opening of the eye of the dragon is all about Malkuth becoming aware through Yesod of the whole spiritual reality of the inner world. Aethrobacy is a word H.P. Blavatsky described as a phenomenon of levitation in Isis Unveiled. She explained that the Earth is a magnetic body charged with what one could call positive electricity, while all other forms of matter, including human bodies, produce what could be called negative electricity. Weight, or gravity, she explains, is simply the attraction of the Earth. Therefore, an individual can levitate by aligning their own electricity with that of the Earth, and they would be repelled from the Earth in the way two negatively charged magnets repel one another. This may be achieved through human will, a nervous system disease, ecstasy, or other cause. And I've had dreams of levitation, very profound dreams, and something leads me to believe that it could be possible, but it does have to do with the elements and the charges of the elements in our body, and 666 may have a key to that, because it's the number of electric, pole shift, which pole shift isn't necessarily just the idea of the actual Earth's pole shift, but a magnetic sort of pole shift in the sense of, again, 666 being the magnetic energy center, and everyone's focused outward. Well, 666 being that central solar axis, it's where the pole can shift and you can look inward, and it's like what Colin Wilson talks about in the Mind Parasites, of looking down this sort of like inward telescope and seeing other things on, like parasites, and again, parasites is 666 on the other end, because with a lot, that's bound to happen. Our souls and what they call demons and the fractions and the splitting of everything. It's kind of just the way things are, and it has to do with like this can of worms idea. Actually, I think is very similar. The Taurus is a can of worms. The Pandora's box also is similar. The demons and the what is it? The brass vessel of Solomon and all those demons. It's all the same fucking thing. And so, fortify. Yog-Sothoth again. I mean, Sumer. Crowley wanted to tap back into the Sumerian tradition, and that's where basically history started. Our history is human history is Sumer, but they talk about again these ancient star shit. So, and then also underground. Like, I think that I don't know if there's underground necessarily beings, but if you think about demons and the whole idea of cleansing and banishing and like washing your hands is a sort of spiritual thing in a way. Everyone wants like the baptism and the cleansing. It's a spiritual instinct And so we have parasites literally living as, and it's with 666, they're on the lower level. You can't see them. They're on the small end of the spectrum, basically Tartarus or hell in a way. The Pluto and Hades concept, like, it's funny how Pluto is interchangeable kind of with Uranus on the Tree of Life. Interchangeable in the sense that, well, what's up and down, because, or what's in and out, because Pluto would imply Hades, obviously which is both the farthest reach, so it's like Kether, but Uranos means heavens, and yet for some reason Uranos is associated with Thoth, and because, I mean, it's just that interchange of the within and the without, and the up and the down, and again, this whole 666 thing being this like central axis, solar portal thing where it's fractal because it's like it's where's the point, where's the center of, and where's the edge? Well, it's everywhere, and so it's all relative, and it's the limitless fucking light, and it's also the limitless great night. And so 311, it's got this like duality to it, obviously, and oh yeah, and I was wondering like why I wondered why you were asking about 302, because it's just like this weird off number. And so I was looking into it more, and I realized 302 is kind of like a form of 311, because the 11 is 2, essentially. So 302 is has everything to do, I found, with this Set thing. It's the Hellbird, which Kenneth Grant mentions. He doesn't say that it's this number. It's the cone of Set, which he mentions, and 0I, which is like the open, again, like the Kaf Nia, or the opening of this, like, there's this idea, again, like of the opening of the dragon, but it's like the eye of God just opening, or the eye of the vision of Pan, and the totem of Set, which the desert is like a totem of Set itself, the Ophidian cult. But the desert, I want to go back to that, is kind of like 302, it's kind of what I think about that. 32 is the paths, the tree of life in a way, and then open, it's like a portal number. And the magical shells, the magical wisdom, the Dharmakaya, Vajra Yoga, which goes back to Vajra Yogi, because it's only 10 or 9 less. And that Vajra Yoga pretty much is all about the Dharmakaya, or the truth body, which is, they say, is one with the sort of Tao, or the nothing, or the zero, self-abnegation. Kundalini Samadhi, so that's Kundalini raises itself up and then basically reaches Samadhi, which is self-abnegation. And the full moon goes with that. And that's what full moon, Kenneth Grant actually mentions it as associated with that, but he doesn't actually say that. He says, and he does say the fire snake. It may be significant that the verse number enumerates the magical motto of Charles Stansfeld Jones, Frater Achad, 13. He was certainly another prophet in that he announced the advent of the Eon of Maat on April 2nd, 1948. And see, he mentions this throughout this book, so it's obviously pretty important. And I realized that later on, after the whole egg, and there's something fucking to this, like, more, like, it's almost to the point where it's like a fuck you to the system, to the anyone who doesn't, anyone, any scoffers or naysayers, in a way. Like, one is with the whole 999 thing and the Eon of Truth and Justice and all that too. It's like, it's self-explanatory. One is the meaning of Achad. The arises and descends could refer to that adept's descent into the abyss to permit of Crowley's ascent to the grade of Magus. On the other hand, the symbolism pertains to the fire snake's circular ascension and descension. So again, the full moon, Kundalini Samadhi, So I'm just seeing if there's any other. Yet again, the references suggest that one, or Achad, has become the beast. Holy shit! In a way, that's what I thought. In a sense, like, in a way, I've always thought that Achad and Crowley were two side, like they were they needed each other, like they were two. And in a way, that's what I think about our work. I think I'm nothing. I wouldn't have learned any of this without you and your knowledge. But in a way, it's like some of this stuff. It's like there's just a weird interplay. I don't know how else to say it. It's just like the 13. I don't know. The oracle is Kara, a name given by the Turks to the loup-garou and to the Kushamar, the werewolf, and the nightmare. As an adjective, Kara denotes black and signifies de mauvaise azure. 302 also equals Shah, a pig, a zootype of Set and of the full moon. The meaning of the oracle remains unclear. And see, a lot of this stuff, like the fact that he didn't fully go up to 1,000 at least, and like means this whole, at least the Ninth Arch is kind of fragmentary, and yet there's no other book that is as in depth as it. So that's why I felt I needed to do this. 311 as Liber Ammonia, which Simon Hinton is talked about by Kenneth Grant. This book isn't, but Kenneth Grant mentions him in Outside the Circles of Time as far back as 1980. So this is 17 years later. 17 is an important number, obviously, to Kenneth Grant and to the Typhonian tradition and all this. But so on July 13th, 1997, he received a direct communication from Aiwass, which formed part one of a short threefold book he later called Ammonia, which is 311 in Greek. It means unity, kind of like a chad. Midway through daily Aiwass invocation on July 13th, banished, prepared a circle. He heard an inner voice. He tried to extract information from Aiwass on the cryptogram of chapter 2, verse 76 by inner questioning. Midway during the reception of the first chapter, I paused for half an hour, then invoked again according to my instinct, or his instinct. The reader will obviously make his or her own judgments on the reception, but it was totally uncontrived, unrehearsed, naturally free-flowing communication. This book came from a Praetor-Human source. He mentions Kenneth Grant, Praetor Achad, Nima. He was in a strong working lodge, the Lamal Lodge, and Lamal, again, is 102. It has to do, like, that's my name literally spelled out, so, and Mayan, and all these things that basically, some of them I didn't even realize at the time. It's just like, how does this fucking happen? How is this all overlapped? And then it comes in my possession. So he says, it was published, I guess, in 1999. For it is written, glare not into eternal flames for fear of solitude. That makes me think again of the magic fire, solitude, or darkness. Such is the diversity of purpose. The book is its own cipher. The code is 13, the time code reversed. And the Eon of Maat is 1313, and 13 implies the 12 with the 1 in the center, the spider in the web. A, listen to the numbers and the letters. Remember the code is reversed. Hadith in reversal is the ultimate point of non-manifestation becoming. And that's what all about Silba and the wisdom of Silba is all about. The book of non-mobile becoming. Which is basically all about dreams, kind of. Heed well this divine law, and the hawk-headed one will be no more. Om. One is the key, chosen for those that free. and in the day of balance it shall be 3 for ye. Thus ye have 1 and 3, 3 and 1. Remember, 1331 is 11 cubed, but also my name spelled out for whatever reason in Hebrew. I found that. Let not one know well the other, or had unity, let not one know well know the other. In the day of Ma'at, the justified will gain by losing that which they chose to explain, negating the effects of pain. And only then shall your unity be found, and only then, not again, shall my children breathe the light without breath, the dark without death. Hark the numbers and the letters. In part 2 it says, Go forth, my children, let not one's exuberance manifest against thee, bring the one to men, for unity's heart doth bestow a message for man. It is not to fathom, for pattern cleanse the mind in subjective consideration. It is the abomination of desolation, child, for deeper casts are brought when readiness awaits. Hurry not, my chosen, the gods do guard thee in thy fate. The key, so sweet, will multiply through many veils torn asunder when ye can see. Depart from thy tail chasing and witness me. Hark the numbers and the words, therein the mystery lies. 11. The twisting helix multiplies according to space-time pressure once manifest, but the curve of pi is linked to time. Thus in time the curve will unwind. Persist with thy might, and I shall reveal it to the wise. Patience a virtue is for you to cultivate. Everything is happening all the time out of time. The rhythm varies with all the beauteous beats. Multiply and heave with every rise and fall of variance. Thus the factor unknown dances the dance in unity and multiplies endlessly until there is no more to manifest. Now I go to a better place, O chosen one of little faith. Behold, success is thy proof. Abrahadabra, Om. Part 3. For it is written, Utilize thy thoughts for manifestation. Conscious be not of unbecoming. Rest a little, servant, and the delicious fruits will be yours. Proceed with the wording and comment thereof. The light shall come. Relax, and I shall play through thee as always. The learned oh my god. The learned simplicities so pattern cleanse, for a new light shines, O chosen one. The Lady of Stars in her infinite brilliance becomes the spark, her child. That moment he is ever there, so with all degenerations the some are less there. Restrict not thy thoughts. Extend thy considerations, so it is brought forth. O shining one, ever to thee will they flock, for ye are but the servant of the star and the snake. This is for heaven's sake. The wave will strike in good time, and the song in radiant rhyme. Thus all will be perfected. Abrahadabra, Om. And so he gives a commentary on it, and he does mention 1331 and the 44 of their sum. And how it's 11 cubed. Pan is 131. Arachne, the 13th sign. It's funny. I just found. What is it? Just found that listen is 555. I may have already found it a while ago, but I found it this morning. I was like, how did I not know that? Which is obviously silent too. And that goes with my. I think that when you read that chat or cryptogram, I think it's like a key to your own understanding and your own will in a way. Like it's like a code to unlock like your will in the sense it makes you think. It like makes you wrap around and think, well, what is it? Like, you know, like I don't know. It makes me. That's what I thought it was, at least. I was like, well, this code, there's something to it. Almost like I actually got that sense when I first picked up Magic, book 4 off the bookshelf at a store. When going to look for Crowley books, like the first time, I was like, holy shit, the Book of the Law how is this so familiar? Like, it felt just so familiar. And I had the sense that it had to do with, like, the future. Like, I would read this in the future in some way, like, a lot. And I knew there was something to it. And I think it was even before then that on September 9th, 2009, I was like, okay, I'm going to devote myself to figuring out what 9 means and what all of this means. Because I had no idea yet. I was like 17. And I was making DMT. Actually, I made DMT, or extracted it, and knew from then that there's something beyond this, like just the material world, and that numerology kind of had a key to it. So this whole idea of unity, also how they say, oh, you can't comprehend samadhi or kether or one or zero even. But if you really, I mean, I've been thinking about these concepts for a while, and I can pretty much cognitively understand the void. I mean, it's not that hard. It's pretty much what understanding is, in a sense, like as Binah. But let's see. This the curve of pi linked to time thing is interesting, because that's exactly what I think about the spiral and how the toroid basically links with the point. The point and the edge and time and perspective and data and points and where things are and when. There's something to that, and the whole subjective objective thing I think connects with that. In a way, the 11 and the magic fire. The magic fire is like, or the star fire, you could say. But yeah, here he mentions, I wanted to go through where he mentions 311. And he says that the page Lamb's portrait is on is 311 in its original printing, I guess. And that's where he first links it with Kafnia, and being the back page, the back of Lamb's head. In a way, it implies that, I guess. There is therefore a strong, if oblique, connection between Lamb, the Talam, and Malat, which are these like substances, I guess he calls them, of these magical elixirs. So the daughter whose secret eye is the gateway to universe B in the back of the tree of life. So that's what 311 is all about. Blavatsky draws attention to a passage in Ralston Skinner's The Source of Measures in which the letter P is shown as referring to half of the head behind the ears. This part of the body is usually ascribed to Koph, which Koph is kind of both the K and the P, like he says, the phallus and the cutius. The daughter is thereby equated with Pe, or mouth, not of the face but of the back of the head. So the back of the head and mouth is the dark. It is Set, basically. Like there's depictions of Set with his head behind Horus's head. It's the inner voice, which he calls the best Kol, or the Bath Kol, or the Bath Kol, the divine Vok, or Vox of the daughter, is the living mouth of the tower which in the pylon of Ipsos, Lamb, the tower reared in the desert of Set, where Nuit bids her devotees to invoke her, shrill of stream or ecstasy, swan, and remember Hamsa is 107. Basically, all these things, it's all about, like, I don't know, just all connects. That's all I know. And there is probably there's practical, to me, it's like Arachnean magic would be what I would call this, in the sense that you can you can spin webs in a way. Like, that's really all language and ritualism is, really. And that's why I think the circle being 666 and the cycles and the times and this ancient knowledge, when you really put a lot of effort, like I haven't even done it yet, but lottery is 333, and 333 is all about the allotments and casting lots, basically. And clearly Kenneth Grant knew a lot, but there's a lot he was just beginning to get into. And not like it's funny because this Typhonian stuff is a threat kind of to the Orthodox, like Caliphate OTO, but then we and me presenting this stuff too is also probably a threat to the publishers of the Typhonian, Michael Staley and the Typhonian Order, as they're now called. And it's just funny because it's Typhon is all about disorder anyway. So how are you going to be a Typhonian Order? Anyway, 311. He also mentions it when he talks about Kophnia here. He doesn't mention 311 here, but that's where he mentions Kophnia first in Hecate's Fountain. And I know he does on 151. So, Druk, he's talking about Pei, Drukpa, 311, Kophnia, and Cobb's the star. 311 is Aish, meaning man. The opening syllable of manifestation, a word of the many implications in the cult of Maat. These numbers, and so also man, that's another thing about 311 being this alien stuff, and then also man. I think that's why it has to do with, how would I say, like the connection between man and aliens, I guess. And because what is it? What would that not? Is that not the penultimate thing for man to, like, the thing is, you can't, I think that's what the egg is all symbolic of. The man cannot be fucked with, before he is developed or mature. But what the question, when is man mature? Well, in a way, we're over the hill, I think, and we're going down the bottom end of the slope. If you look at current generations, and like just the fact we might end up fucking transhuman robots just to survive, which at that point, then it's why. So, but then at the same time, well, what is the point of meeting aliens, other than to have a sort of affirmation of the fact that we're not alone? And then it brings into question the whole, would it crumble religions? Well, most religions talk about higher beings or other beings or angels and demons and stuff. So if anything, it would only confirm that, in which case, when you consider the Kabbalah and all this numerology, which does confirm these myths, but in a sense, they're mythic. Like, again, it's like these myths and these patterns and stuff, they're all, it's not like they don't. It's not like these numbers and the values and the equations with whatever formulas you use don't equal that. That's the mistake people make when they say, you can make anything equal anything. Well, no, it's not. You really can't. It is going to be according to a certain law or rules or a formula, but it's the relationships and where they do fall that is important. And even like casting dice or casting lots or casting sort of tarot cards or I Ching or even drawing a number or something, those are all governed in a way by laws. And so, I mean, it's not like it won't be. It's just that those laws they're tied up with with manifestation. And So basically, man, like what I was saying is, man can't be fucked with by, like, it's like breaking an egg before it's developed. You literally can't penetrate the egg itself. Otherwise, you're compromising the whole development and the contents and the end, the end result. You wouldn't even have a bird at the end if it, using a bird as a metaphor. Um, so man in our cell, in our shell, like, but that's the problem is, well, clearly we have been, like, with aliens and stuff, like the orb. And in a way, maybe sometimes that is good as long as it's etheric and not physical. Because at least the orb for me prodded me to, or goaded me to, look further into this. I was like, holy shit, I wanted a confirmation in the first place. I was like asking, I want to see a UFO. I want to, I didn't think they would literally come into my room. And I know that sounds crazy, and that sounds, that's why I don't really care how it sounds, because it pushed me to look and then see, holy shit, like all these books and all these, like the Ethership mystery and its solution and all this stuff. I understand it, at least, and how it's like data and Kenneth, like, in a way, this was leading up to the computer age itself, and we just haven't, like they say, well, our spiritual understanding and level isn't as high as our technological level. Well, apply this spiritual knowledge, the Theosophia, which again, Theosophia, the root or origin of Theosophy, Theos Sophia, the wisdom of God. Apply that to this new knowledge, and you'll see that, holy fuck, there's like there is a Kabbalistic web to it all, and so you can really weave. It's the spider writing, and I mean, holy shit, like it's crazy. I can't explain. I don't really want to explain it to everybody. I kind of am through my work, but I don't know if people are really picking up on it, or how much I mean, I don't want everyone. This would be like a type of warfare, like talked about mind war. If everyone knew all this stuff, and in a way, like, goes to Beyond the Mob Zone. He mentions 311 here, and how it with 107 is 418. But he's talking about Kalki, and Kalki is kind of like the Maitreya, the avatar of the Kali Yuga. He's talking about pretty much the end, like what he talks about, the Eon of Zain, right here, the wordless Eon of Zain. He's implying the sort of 7 eons, or the Maha Pralaya, the Maha Vantara idea, and how at the end he implies that it's like it reverses and everything just goes backwards, and that's why these reversals are kind of important in Zain, how it's 17 and 71, the way of the Eon of Zain's manifestation. And I don't know exactly what all that fully entails, like, but he does talk about how it relates with the whole, the beetle and the I don't know, the buzzing and the future Eon, basically like the gray aliens. I mean, and he does talk about the gray aliens in this, all throughout this book, and see the egg and space capsules and the he gives the whole book, and well, actually he gives a caution, but he gives the whole book like verse by verse in the beginning, and then he goes verse by verse and gives the commentary. And some of it is just like weird language, like the first verse, Fulca Mesa Mesa Fulc Elise, not invoke blank, not invoke Zelb, E LLM 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 E LLL LLL LM LLL LML E. To begin, sound resembling long drawn-out Shambhlast, Lamazakbi, spider riding, number of the great star, and the three tentacles, walking backwards only then it meets its own light. Sound resembling a battery of Shamblasts, repeated 8 times. The children of Isis appear, and like birds, but such undescribable birds, disappear. See, and that's what he's talking about, the hellbird and these birds and beetles. He implies that they're like lights or orbs. And then he says, we who have seen them know of one only description of their appearance in the writings of earth. I have seen the sign of Koth and the dark arch, the 9th arch. 29 steps descend from its jewel to the vault beneath. Here lie the covenant of Set, the pot, the rod, and the book of the law, which implies like a sort of witchcraft setting, which he does talk about the cauldron and witches and stuff. It's very weird, like, in that sense, but it's also cool in that sense, and it's homely to me in that sense. And with the whole wizard and this ball of light, I swear to God, I think that the ball of lights are Maotians or wizards or elves or the aliens have this elf fairy connection, and fairy, F-A-E-R-Y, is 222, and that's how Kenneth Grant mentions fever is 222, and the fresh fever from the skies, and he implies all this shit in a weird way that links it back to these ancient eons, not just like the Necronomicon and Dope by Sax Rohmer and the Beetle by Richard Marsh and The Prisoner in the Opal by A.E. Mason and all these other fiction. He also links it to like the Salem witches and the African tradition and the Chinese and the Indian and all these other, and then even beyond that, and then that's why the Necronomicon comes in, because it's like the alien. It connects how like aliens and dreams can kind of have a validity to it. He says, and the word, who will descend? Who? Silence is the foundation of the work. The shadow of sleep, like a mist, casts off images which are known as its dreaming. Festation. Invoke Zelb. Full Kemeza Meza. When the whirling came, it was noon, in the middle of the day, and in the middle of the word, this planet opened. An eye also opened and closed. A white spider spun its web with mist of the empty shrine, must falling incessantly on the paved court. And when the spider moved, the deep black furrows of its web had crisscrossed the granite blocks. Steep declivities, the mist hardened a carapace. So it's like he's saying that the earth is a beetle. The tunnels were linked to the lower Qliphoth. The hell spume gushed upward. The fountain of Hecate, a rush of mephitic air from the unsealed depths. Hecate's fountain, I also looked at the origin of that, and it's the Chaldean oracles, but it was kind of like a myth that Hecate, there was a fountain that somehow demons came out of. Alright, so I didn't want to keep reading too much of the Liber Akbish, even though I want to read it. And I've been telling you this for a while, as we both know, there's just a lot of stuff to go through in that book. But I wish we could go over it slowly, so I've been kind of forcing it, I know. And the interesting thing, though, is when thinking about 311 in this whole thing, I was like, well, what's 722, Janine's number, minus 311? Well, it's 411 or 411, so I'm literally giving 722 the 411 on 311. So I think I'll probably title the video that or something, but just with having gone over all those different things, 311 has a lot of converse connections with 411, because it's obviously Doth, the zone of the Meon, which again is the blackness or the emptiness, but yeah, active. So with the Kophnia, it's like a portal to other dimensions. It's got a lot of connections. That's you texting me. But yeah, there's just a lot. Even with the sort of control system stuff. Like this stuff really connects, and that's why in the videos that I'm going to be making, I want to show how our work kind of parallels what Kenneth Grant was showing in his work, like how these fictional stories overlap with reality, like how Valis is 107 and the pink light and all this stuff. And with the years 1974 and all this stuff, there's like a sort of next chapter, and I've read the Kenneth Grant books, and I still read them. I still get a lot out of them. But I would love to have a sort of sequel. And this stuff is like a sequel. And there's a lot. I mean, I don't want to say I want to just make money off of it, but there's a lot here a lot of material here we could publish. And it's taking, obviously, this time and I've been finding, like, extrapolating and milking this stuff for all I can. And I've just been taking all these different, I know these are weird things and stuff sometimes, but I've just taken them out of books, and when you do that, you see again how like they all connect. Solve is 411, and Coagula happens to be 114. There's a lot of like these numerical patterns, and from them, like it's like they teach you things. You can learn from them. It's crazy, but like this fucking thing. Why will it not let me search? See, I don't have the fucking Windows license on this goddamn computer, so I can't even search Control F, even though I did already before. I don't know what the fuck. I hate technology. On my real computer, like I bought this goddamn laptop, I should be able to use the goddamn Microsoft Word. Actually, I think this is a pirated version. It should still fucking work. I can't even find 411. That's one of the main negative sides of all this fucking technology crap, is how fucking, it's supposed to help us and stuff, but it can increasingly fuck everything up very easily, very quickly, and it pisses me off so fucking much. Come on. God damn. Anyway. The spider bat netted in her hair is freed in sleep. And this whole idea, or this verse, connects with one of the main ideas in Liber Akbish, which is that this girl, or lady Margaret Leasing, was basically penetrated, like her skull was penetrated by some light of the hellbird that the book talks about. And it associates it with this sort of alien. It's more that, see, it's like a spider bat alien bird. A description of the Akbish spider bat, or Kritskor, that clamped its claws into the scryer's skull and injected through the aperture of Brahma the strange light of the Mauve Zone. The aperture of Brahma, which that makes me think of the egg, or the zero, basically. The verse number is that of Ha, or He, Ha spelled out, the letter specifically associated specifically with the Great Old Ones. In its mantric form, it is hum, the nasal bindu, denoting a secret form of magical congress symbolized in sexual magic. And yeah, the nasal or m, which is I forgot what it's called, Chandra Bindu. That Chandra Bindu is this sort of kala that is created through the vibration of the Lambikagra chakra, which is in the back of the head. They claim it's the back of the head. I think it's symbolic of the pineal gland. And Kenneth Grant doesn't ever really mention the pineal gland, ironically, because it wasn't really until the 70s. I mean, yeah, he was writing in the 70s, but the 70s is when the information about DMT and the pineal gland was really being ascertained, and some very few writers write about it, basically, and they didn't know all the connections with DMT. And so far, like my own discoveries about DMT, Daleth Mem Tau 444, and there's a lot of alignments in that, and it's just fucking crazy how computery, like it is a sort of cyber Gnosticism. It's a computer Gnosticism, this whole gematria thing. And the place of the skull, Golgotha, is the place of the cross, or crossing of the fathomless abyss between the Mav zone and beyond. So yeah, this external, this portal or gateway with the inner eye, which is funny because the one eye is 555, fractals is 555, so the one eye and with a cheth. So fractals is 555, and then scryers plural is 555, and he keeps talking about all these different scryers. And so hey, though, spelled out also can be HHH, or hey HEH. That's the goddess 15 basically, and 5 being Hay, which is the mother and the daughter. Kenneth Grant talks a lot about the goddess 15, even though 15 is also associated with Osiris and Saturn, because the square of Saturn, each column equals 15, and it was the 15th member of Osiris that was his phallus that was lost and then restored. Or that whole symbolism is basically the Masonic lost word, and the fall. And Kenneth Grant, like, I've been slowly coming to realize that, but then as I've been coming to realize that, I've slowly been reading how Kenneth Grant says exactly this over and over and over again in the Ninth Arch, and how Isis, her number being 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6, veils the whole 666, and 666 being this, like, the descent of manifestation and the fall and the lost word and all these things being synonymous. And it's crazy. I keep saying that too. I know I was rewatching the video. I keep saying it's crazy, because it's shot like that's the good thing, is it helps bring a sort of vibrance or clarity or reawakening to illumination to the mundane waking sleep of everyday life. Set is the black one, and remember that 111 is the cult of Set. Well, they call not just Set, but really the true God, the hidden God, but the hidden one is 222. And I do the as either Tau Hey, which would be 410, or Teth Hey. Either one, again, it just shows that maintaining that awareness, it still shows the manifold values and how they still connect. Even though you could use that Tau, it'll have a different value. It may not be perfect, but yet it'll still fit in, and in another way, in its own way. And then, say, subtracting it from another triple number, you'll find a cognate idea in the difference that usually helps you see something you didn't see before. And that's how I'm finding these sort of full, like, phrases and stuff. Sometimes it's happenstance, like I didn't mean to. Sometimes it happens when I'm looking for other things, and rarely am I looking for something and then it equals a triple number, but when it does, I'm not expecting it to. It just happens to. So here he's mentioning, again, the Nephren Ka, the Starry Wisdom sect. So yeah, he talks all these infernal and stuff and sexual stuff. Like, he links how basically, I don't know, he just links a lot of things, like the Masonic mysteries being the same. They are sexual, and when people on the internet see that, they think of it all as being negative. And actually, again, 222 is the sex cult. Well, with a gimel for C. And the sex cult being 222, there's a lot of 444 things. So then when you'll find a lot of weird 666s, or at least I have ever since like applying this formula to all these other subjects that I haven't even written about or gotten into, because to me it's just a side point, but it does tell me that, yeah, people have been using this sort of thing for nefarious purposes of some sort. I mean, because it's like if you rearrange, you can write the code, and writing the code is like spell work, basically. And that's why, again, grammar is grimoire, and grammar, spell work, root work. It's like the root of words, also, or the root numbers. So yeah, I don't want to go on too long. It's like already a long video, I'm sure. I was going to look up 722. I can't though. So, hold on. So this is interesting. The lines lead below, as it is written in a lost grimoire. There are thrones underground, and the monarchs upon them reign over space and beyond. Invoke them in darkness, outside the circles of time, in silence, in sleep, in conjurations of chaos, the deep will respond. And then 722 is Zayan, which is like that word of the Book of Zayan, Blavatsky bases the secret doctrine on. In Zayan, Kenneth Grant relates to a lot of things, like the Atlantean stuff, Zane, even the Eon of Zane, which again is connected to 722. And he says it represents this like extremely ancient yet ever new line of wisdom. And then, of course, Al-Nilam, which is the center of Orion. One star, which is like one star in sight, using Vav for O, which is the case in a lot of different formulae. The manifestation of the Kala chakra, which that's the Kala chakra is the wheel of time, basically. And the manifestation of the Om, the avatar of the Kala Hansa, which is the swan of space-time. Kala means really time, but it implies the colors or the emanations. The children, as in like the children of Isis, which imply... Kenneth Grant really uses it to refer to the Qliphoth, or the beetles, or the shells, and the Qliphoth and the aliens, basically, which alien visitation, kindred spirits. Gematria prophecy and disclosure pretty much shows how with Gematria you can achieve a sort of disclosure. There's just an undeniable connection in the data. Crowley's future self, and because 333 is future self, the number of Crowley. Open the final hay, fire and brimstone. And the verse says, in the drifting sand. And the scene is either Dongola in the Sudan or the desert around Old Cairo. And he talks about the Sudan as being this like place where I guess is like an outpost of the Great Old Ones as well. I guess because that's where they had like those nuclear blasts where there's Sudan or Libyan. No, wait, that's Libya. Libyan desert blast. Anyway, he does talk about Sudan a lot. And then all these different areas, like he talks, obviously the desert and these space, like the desert of Set, the desert of the real, and the Matrix. These are ideas of kind of like the white room, the blank, or the white light. That whole idea of like a blank space, which Dark Doorway of the Beast talks about, but it is Doth, basically. The empty room is the name of Doth. The nightmare basement. So, yeah, he's saying the bland Buddha's serene consciousness cover the nightmare basement subconsciousness. So it's talking about like the duality of sub and or waking and dreaming, the two sides of the tree, which that makes me think of how 722 is 361 doubled, and 361 is like Crowley showed in Liber 7.7, the tree. But yeah, 722 definitely has a connection with like Night Side of Eden and all this stuff Kenneth Grant's talking about. And not only that, like, I don't know, it's just crazy. And 821, which is like another converse number, being Ma Ion, and then also my birthday, I've kind of considered it one of my numbers, as well as 999. Okay, 821 is a perpetual scenario, which Kenneth Grant mentions in the Ninth Arch, but then I just realized it today. It's also the title of The Strange Life of Ivan Ossikin, which is a book by P.D. Uspensky, the student of Gurdjieff, who wrote Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, which also has the same value. But The Strange Life of Ivan Ossikin is about sort of like life repeating over and over. And they made a movie about it. I forgot what it was called. But The Strange Life of Ivan Ossikin is basically this whole... It's like a fictional account of the idea of the eternal recurrence. Or like... Yeah, the eternal recurrence. Which again connects with the Eon of Zain and the 7 eons in the Zimzum, really. And also the perichoresis or interpenetration of worlds, and the gematria, and how data, basically, if the zero is I can't help but think of the zero in the egg as being a sort of data disk, in the sense that all possibility is mathematically determined, even though there's different timelines, those all kind of exist I don't know, that's maybe a crazy topic or concept, but that's kind of what people are grappling with, or philosophy has been grappling with, whether there's free will or is it deterministic, and are there parallel realities. And to me, all this stuff seems to imply that, yeah, there is, and not only that, that there's like a science behind it. But anyway, yeah, so 311, I think, is just a sort of like tip of the iceberg number for all these numbers. Like, every number is infinite, there is no difference, but again, it implies all the other numbers. So it's where things fit, and it's the relationships, and it's vibrations and ideas, and I don't know how else to say it.